Another one-time ally of President Trump seems to be turning on him. David Pecker is the publisher of the National Enquirer. He's become the latest to speak to federal prosecutors. And the Wall Street Journal reports, along with Vanity Fair, that Pecker's been granted immunity and that he told prosecutors what he knows about the hush money payments made to women alleging they had affairs with the president. And according to these stories, Pecker says that President Trump knew about the payments. Joining me now is contributing writer for The New Yorker, Ronan Farrow. Ronan, you're a man of many scoops. Let's establish that right now. I want to talk about your old scoop before I talk about the new scoop, because you wrote months and months ago about the Enquirer's practice of catch and kill, buying stories and then burying them, particularly how it relates to now President Trump. The news that David Pecker, the publisher here, got immunity, why is that significant?
So this was a pattern, very clearly. They were paying money to identify, sometimes to investigate, and then to kill stories, as you said. There was a case where they paid Karen McDougal, who alleged she had an affair with Donald Trump that I reported on, to silence her. There was a case where they paid a doorman at the Trump Organization to silence a story that he wanted to tell about an alleged affair and a love child that had supposedly resulted from it. The interesting thing about this pattern from the beginning was that it clearly put AMI, the parent company of the National Enquirer, in legal jeopardy. We were talking to election law experts from the beginning who said, hey, given the proximity to the election, the close relationship between Pecker and Trump, and the seeming intent to influence the election, this could get them in hot water. So it's not terribly surprising to hear that there's this immunity deal, because this is a situation where prosecutors likely had a lot they could hold over Pecker.
What was the nature of the relationship between David Pecker and the president?
So we had talked to, over the course of those stories that I did, dozens of AMI employees who said they were really close. There was this transactional arrangement where Pecker would identify stories to be killed for Trump. Now, we know much more explicitly now from the charging documents in the Michael Cohen case that that is exactly what was happening, that there was actually a formal arrangement, and that Michael Cohen would liaise with Pecker to identify these stories and to make sure they didn't show up in the news.
So there may be theoretically, hypothetically, more out there than the two stories we know about.
I will stick to the ones that I've reported about, but certainly this was a pattern.
You also aren't surprised by this AP report that there was a safe with secrets about the now president of the United States and presumably about other celebrities as well.
A lot of the employees at the Enquirer knew about this safe. Some of the documents, like that arrangement with the doorman that I just mentioned, actually resided in that safe for a while. It was a physical old safe that was just in someone's office there.
It's almost cliche. I was joking with Allison that if she wrote about this, no one would believe her. There's an old safe where they kept stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And if you're a federal prosecutor, just giant alarm bells must be going off right there.
Yes, and look, there are protections under the First Amendment for news outlets and their decisions whether to run stories or not. But there are also exemptions to those protections if an organization isn't acting in a journalistic capacity. And I think prosecutors probably had a pretty fair case, given the Enquirer's track record on this, to argue that they weren't acting as a journalistic organization.
All right, so let's flip to the new scoop out in the New Yorker just over the last 24 hours. And this has to do with a memo that apparently was circulating inside the West Wing in the Trump administration, alleging some kind of operation by former Obama officials called the echo chamber. Explain exactly what's going on here.
The idea of the echo chamber had roots in the conservative press. The far-right news outlets like Breitbart trotted this out over the course of 2016 and 2017. And the concept is that Ben Rhodes and other former Obama aides had a relationship with allied journalists where they would swing coverage against Donald Trump, particularly on foreign policy issues. Now, of course, there are former officials who talk to the press and who have criticized this administration, but this memo takes it to such an extreme, John. It says that these are basically, in effect, enemy combatants. They are analyzed in this memo like a foreign set of terrorists would be. It talks about a war room. It talks about an ops center. And all of that is a sort of mythical conspiracy theory. So it's striking to see this distributed at very high levels in the White House.
The memo, which you publish, it is extraordinary. There's nothing metaphorical about it or ironic. It's actually saying there is a physical organization to take down the Trump administration.
That's right. And it's been troubling to a lot of people to see the National Security Council and the White House devoting time and energy to circulating a memo that seems to indulge in these conspiracy theories.
And it looks like some of the information that's put out by another organization, which you've done another amount of reporting for yet another scoop, Black Cube, which is this Israeli private investigating firm that may have done research on Obama officials about the Iran deal, may have done some work for Harvey Weinstein before. What's their role in this?
So Black Cube is this private intelligence firm in Israel. They did do work for Harvey Weinstein. They secretly recorded women and tracked women and used false identities and front companies to go after them. In a very unusual turn of events, they were doing a similar operation aimed at undermining former Obama officials who were proponents of the Iran deal. They were using, again, false identities, front companies, going after these people's wives, doing sexual blackmail on them. Now, what's interesting is that the internal documents used by this private investigation firm use exactly the same concepts and language as this memo that circulated in the White House. They
have a statement. I'll just say Black Cube does not get involved in politics. It says it has no relation whatsoever to the Trump administration, to Trump aides, and it goes on there. Ronan Farrow, thanks so much for being with us. I have to say, it's eerie how much all of your work is involved in so many of the stories that we're dealing with right now. So congratulations on all.
They all connect. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Ronan. Appreciate it.